Welcome back to another video, guys. My name is Tilly and I'm a strength and conditioning coach. Today we're going to be talking about some basic movement and anatomy terms that are going to help us make sure we cover all of our bases when we're writing programs or training sessions. We're going to talk about the planes of motion. Yay! So fun. As always, everybody, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be putting out new videos every Monday and Thursday and trying my best to get a vlog or something else in there every week as well. So you don't want to miss out on that. Come on. Now, what are the planes of motion? Well, they're just simply a way of categorizing different movements. The planes of motion are imaginary 2D surfaces that we draw through our bodies so that we can see what a type of movement is. Bear with me. There are three main ones that split the body perfectly in half. So that makes things nice and neat for us, right? All you have to know is that they're a way of categorizing our movements and they help tell us what we should put in our gym programs. Now, the first plane of motion is arguably the most popular for gym-based movements, and it is the sagittal plane. The sagittal plane, also known as the antero-posterior plane. This plane splits our body completely from front to back, dividing it into left and right halves. So it goes straight down the middle, that line goes all the way through front to back. This is not your video. Do you want to go lie down? Yeah, thank you. Now, generally, our flexion and our extension movements fall into this category. Flexion is when the angle between our joints decreases, and extension is when that angle increases. So think of a bicep curl. When we flex, the angle gets smaller, and when we extend, it gets bigger. So when you think of movements that occur in the sagittal plane, I want you to think about things like a bicep curl. That's usually the easiest one to try and get your head around it. The flexion and extension that occurs in that bicep curl is exactly parallel to that sagittal plane that divides our body from left to right sides. Other movements that also strictly kind of go forwards and backwards are things like a sit-up or a hamstring curl or a leg extension. Honestly, the list goes on. Anything that moves forward and backwards can be considered a part of that sagittal plane. So there's sagittal plane movements. To me, the sagittal plane is just everything that's kind of stereotypical within the gym. So think of things like a bench press, a bent over row, all of those forward and backward movements. You with me? The next plane of movement is the frontal plane, but it's also known as the coronal plane or the lateral plane. It bisects our body laterally from side to side. So if you imagine that line's going straight down there, it goes sideways alongside our body. It gives us a front and a back side. Ooh. Cheeky. Now, when we think of the frontal plane, I want you to think of things like abduction or adduction or jumping jacks or lateral lunges, lateral raises, maybe even a spinal flexion where you're just stretching your body from side to side. Other movements like a wide grip lat pull down. Is this making sense so far? Are we all together on this? Those movements are not a part of the sagittal plane because their main plane of motion is side to side. Yeah? Is that making sense so far? Awesome sauce. Now, the next plane of movement is called the transverse or the axial plane. I think I've heard it called the horizontal plane as well, but we're just going to call it the transverse plane for now. The transverse plane divides our body into superior and inferior halves, or top and bottom halves. So when you think of that transverse plane, I want you to think of the question of would you rather? Would you rather date somebody top half fish or bottom half fish? That is the transverse plane. Okay, weird tangent, fine. Let's move on. It's generally rotational movements that occur within this plane. So you can see I've got some nice hip circles going on there. Those are the kind of movements, transverse plane. Spinal rotation also occurs in your transverse plane, or something like your forearm rotating to face your palm up or to face your palm down, aka pronation or supination. In case you want to know, supination is when you're holding the soup and pronation is when you pour the soup out. Those are the two different movements there, and they occur in the transverse plane. There are other movements like things like a windmill and stuff like that that might occur in the transverse plane. This was a very popular thing that I had to do for my rehab, so there's a lot there. Just wanted to show off my 6 skills, guys. So anything kind of rotation based, that occurs in the transverse plane. But there is a magical other plane that may also be used to describe some movements that we have. The last plane of motion that I want to talk about is the diagonal or the oblique plane. And really we just use this when a movement covers a combination or a variety of different planes of motion. In reality, most of our movements in day-to-day life and within sports are probably more along a diagonal or an oblique plane, or they're probably parallel or perpendicular to the planes of motion that I've described. They're not going to perfectly work alongside it, right? So when you think of things that are happening within the diagonal or the oblique plane, I want you to think of things like a golf swing. Yeah, that's exactly what I had imagined when I was picturing a golf swing. Or an overhead throw. Anything that's going to kind of cross different planes, cross angles, that is our oblique or our diagonal plane. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about all of these planes of motions is because it is so crucial that we include movements from every plane within our gym programs. This makes sure that our joints are healthy and that they're functioning for day-to-day life. Including movements that cross all of our planes of motion is also just an excellent way to make sure that we're using our bodies to do the things that they're designed to do and to make use of them while they're healthy and hopefully able to move, because we are so lucky if we have working able bodies, and so we want to make the most of that, because movement really is a gift and we are so lucky if we are able to do that freely. I also wanted to just bring them up because when I'm writing a gym program for myself or for my clients, this is a part of that little checklist that I do in my head to make sure that I'm covering all my bases. For example, lower body and upper body movements, and I'm making sure that I'm covering my frontal plane, my sagittal plane, my transverse plane. This is also because I don't want to be the cause of restricted movement in my client's life or in my own life. I want people to be able to move freely and for fun, and so we need to keep ourselves moving in every possible way that we have available to us. So next time you write your training session, I want you to make this little checklist in your head. It truly is just for longevity of our joints and our muscles, and if we prepare our body by exposing it to forces coming at it from all angles, then we might be better prepared and better able to deal with unexpected loads coming from all different angles, so we might get injured less often. I don't know. It's not that much of a leap. So absolutely for athletic performance we need this, but it's not just athletic performance. If you think about bodybuilders, you might have seen them doing 3-way lateral raises. You want to hit each angle of that muscle to make sure it grows, and you're hitting each angle by hitting the sagittal plane, the frontal plane, the transverse plane. Does that make sense, everybody? I hope some of those examples helped, and I really think that picturing that 2D panel in your head can help to really remember which one is which. And don't forget, the fish joke is the transverse plane. That helps me. Thank you for watching another video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you have any ideas of what to do next, you can also let me know that as well. But yeah, I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful week ahead. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, guys. It will really help the channel to grow and it would make me feel warm. I'll catch you next time. Bye.